It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, a man accused of causing his partner to take her own life is cleared of her manslaughter. But a jury did find him guilty of a campaign of domestic violence and coercive control against Kiana Dawes, who died aged just 23. We'll bring you the latest. Also tonight, the calls for bereaved parents to be given access to their children's social media accounts. As MPs debate a petition to change the law, I'll hear from Holly Dance, whose son Archie Battersbee died after a prank went wrong. She says children's online histories need to be taken into account. Plus, the private parking company is promising to update their code of conduct for drivers who take longer than 5 minutes to pay. We'll be hearing from a woman who racked up nearly £2,000 in fines in the same car park because of bad phone signal. And we'll try to settle one of the greatest debates of the culinary world. Can pineapple ever have a place on a pizza? Well, that's come and much more on the UK Tonight. Kiana Dawes was just 23 years old when she took her own life. She dropped her baby daughter off with a friend before leaving a note on her phone blaming her partner, simply saying, "Ryan Wellings killed me." In what could have been a landmark ruling, he was accused of driving Kiana to her death after 2 years of domestic violence and abuse. Today, he was cleared of her manslaughter, but was found guilty of assault and coercive control. Charlotte Leeming was at Preston Crown Court, and just to warn you that her report contains details you may find distressing.
Hello? All right?
Pregnant and scared, police footage captures Kiana Dawes after she reported her partner for domestic abuse.
Kiana, what's happened? He's down.
Before you got out?
No, he's downstairs with my colleague.
Preston Crown Court heard that this man, Ryan Wellings, subjected her to years of violence and coercive, controlling behaviour. In July 2022, she left their baby daughter on a friend's doorstep and took her own life. A suicide note on her phone blamed him for her death. "I was murdered," she wrote. "I fought till the end. Ryan Wellings killed me." Today, he was cleared of her manslaughter but found guilty of assault and controlling and coercive behaviour. Kiana's mother, Angela, said she hoped the verdict would help protect others.
I truly hope that no other young lady or child has to go through what he did to my daughter and her baby. And I just wish with all my heart that I could bring her back and say, "It's okay, you're safe now."
A few days before Kiana died, she called police to her flat one last time. Her face covered in blood, she described the attack.
He's here.
Outside the flat?
I'm here.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably around like this area where he's hit my head.
Yeah.
So he's pushed the door into you, has he? Yeah, he smashed the door straight off me.
Right.
And you've passed out here then? I've passed out here.
Please, have a sit down, buddy.
Wellings cried when he was later arrested. He told the trial he never abused or assaulted Kiana, that he only ever restrained her and wasn't responsible for her death, denying all the charges against him.
The availability of digital evidence from mobile phones, recordings that we now have of victims giving their account to the police has meant that we are able now to gather evidence which perhaps in the past we weren't able to do.
Kiana documented her injuries and reached out for help numerous times. In her suicide note, she also wrote, "I hope my life saves another by police services acting faster." This case has really put Lancashire Police under the spotlight. An independent investigation by the police watchdog has examined the contact the force had with Kiana. As a result, 3 officers now face disciplinary hearings, 2 of them for misconduct and 1 for gross misconduct. The Crown Prosecution Service say Wellings has shown little remorse for his actions towards Kiana, but his conviction today will serve as a stark warning to other abusers who use coercive and controlling behaviour on their partners. Charlotte Leeming, Sky News, Preston Crown Court.
Well, really important, as with any of these kind of stories, to say that if you have been affected, you can contact the Samaritans anytime. 116123 is their number, or you can email joe@samaritans.org. Let's talk to Shaman Freeman-Powell about this. Shaman, you've been following this story today alongside Charlotte Leeming, and the end of that report there said the family of Kiana hope that this will be a stark warning to those who carry out domestic abuse, because it wasn't covered extensively in that report there, but the campaign of abuse that Kiana suffered is quite something to hear about.
It is. It's horrific. And actually, this case is an example of the kinds of abuse that so many people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The fact that she was subjected to regular slapping and hair pulling. She was beat so badly on one occasion, she ended up unconscious. After her baby was born in 2021, she spoke to family and friends about the fact she was being hit around the head every week. We heard also during that trial that Wellings had tried to strangle her using an iPhone charger, even pointing a drill in her face and threatening to pull her teeth out. It really is horrific, violent abuse and controlling and coercive behaviour. That's why he was convicted today by a jury of assault and coercive behaviour. But as you say, many campaigners were probably hoping for that manslaughter conviction too. He was cleared of that charge, but prosecutors throughout this trial were arguing that it was this abuse that led to her taking her own life. There's only ever been one person that has been found guilty of manslaughter under similar circumstances, but they pled guilty. This was the first time that a defendant would face a jury under these circumstances. But as you say, her family hope that by the convictions of assault and coercive controlling behaviour, that a lesson will still be learnt about this abuse.
There could be more to come in this case, because we understand that police officers are being investigated about their response to previous contact they had with Kiana.
Well, that's right. And I think it's very common in domestic abuse cases, isn't it, that police will at some points get involved. But these relationships are very complicated. It might be abusive and violent, but there is love there. In this case, Kiana spoke about Wellings being her dream man in the beginning before it turned into a nightmare. The Independent Office for Police Conduct had investigated their police force's handling of this case because there had been police contact in the past. But we heard throughout the trial that Kiana had spoken to police after being abused, but was scared to cooperate because she was threatened with having her child taken away, for an example. So now there has been an Independent Office for Police Conduct investigation which has concluded, and now 3 officers will be facing disciplinary hearings.
OK, Shaman, thank you. Shaman Freeman-Powell following that story for us this evening here on the UK Tonight. Thank you. Now, the Prime Minister today has pledged to make the UK an AI superpower as he laid out his plans to expand the use of technology in a bid to boost growth. Sir Keir Starmer says that he wants to use it to improve public services, tackle climate change and turn around Britain's economy. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, has this report.
The Prime Minister at a laboratory in East London to see artificial intelligence in action, hoping new technology can reboot Britain's flatlining economy.
AI isn't something sort of the future over the next hill. It's the present. It's already here, in Britain, changing lives. A chance to turbocharge growth, create the companies of the future, and radically improve our public services.
The PM with a promise to supercharge Britain's digital economy by 2030 with more computer firepower, special AI growth zones and a pledge to use public data to wire artificial intelligence into our hospitals and schools.
Mark my words, Britain will be one of the great AI superpowers.
But for now, Britain's economic outlook grim. You've predicated your decade of national renewal on economic growth that isn't happening. How is it changing your calculations on accelerating AI? Do you accept that in the meantime you will have to implement some spending cuts in the coming year.
The number one mission of this government is economic growth, and that was run through the budget. But there's much more that we're doing on economic growth, pulling those levers of change. We're already in the top 3 or 4 in the world when it comes to AI. So this isn't a race where all countries of the world are sort of starting on the same line.
The PM refusing to rule out spending cuts later in the year.
In terms of the ruthless approach when it comes to finances and spending, yes, we will be ruthless, as we have been ruthless in the decisions that we've taken so far.
Spending cuts looming, this Cabinet Minister's still upbeat.
We've just announced today almost £10 billion worth of investment, the creation of 13,000 jobs. These are going to start absolutely, straight away. So we are doing the things that the previous government didn't do. They got trapped into a high-tax, low-growth economy, and they did nothing in the middle.
That's what we've got.
It's what we're changing.
You put taxes up loads.
We are still
and
living...
we've got no growth.
We are still living history, but what we are doing that they didn't do is invest into our future.
But the Conservatives having none of it.
The broader issue for the Labour Party and the Labour government is that they continue to talk down our economy. And so if you want AI to drive our economy forward, to grow our economy, you need investors to be with you, you need investment sentiment to be strong, and it just isn't right now.
And this technology already changing our lives.
I think the Prime Minister talked about a lady with a stroke condition in his speech this morning. And what's happening there is that it has so many different data sets of what has happened in stroke situations that it can make rapid comparisons far faster than a human diagnostician or clinician can make. What it doesn't answer is the fact that we don't have, for example, enough nurses or enough doctors or enough beds.
Keir Starmer's almost evangelical about the possibilities of AI, and today was meant to be his big pitch about how to turn the UK into an AI superpower in order to boost growth and transform public services. That's what it was meant to be. But instead, the Prime Minister found himself having to defend a Chancellor under fire as the UK economy takes a battering from markets nervous about massive debt and anaemic growth. A PM desperate to deliver on his promise of national renewal, betting that AI can kickstart growth. But with the Chancellor on the ropes and the budget still backfiring, it's hard to get past the gloom. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Westminster.
Our science and technology editor Tom Clark joins me now. And Tom, it's really interesting listening to that because the UK government, yes, it is a new government, but just in general, the UK government has been on quite a journey when it comes to AI. It didn't seem that long ago that they were very cautious about AI and its future, but now it's all systems go. As Beth said there, the Prime Minister evangelical about it.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that, not just over a year ago, it was all about AI safety. We were being warned these things were going to take over the world, the robots were taking over, it was an existential threat to humanity. The announcement today by the government, the text of the press release said they were going to mainline AI into the veins of the United Kingdom. I mean, they couldn't be more sort of gung-ho than that. So what's changed? I think a couple of things. We've got to grips with the problem. We're better understanding what the risks might be. Also realising that the energy and the infrastructure needed to make and train these ever larger AI models is expensive. Who's going to invest in it? How's that going to be? But the other thing that's been happening, it's very clear this is the direction of travel. This is what everybody's investing in. This is where the big tech firms are putting all their eggs in the basket. And you can see why the government, keen to stimulate the UK economy, is thinking we need to be part of that. And like the last government, I think understood this well, Keir Starmer does too, we're actually quite good at this. We've got a lot of good AI expertise in the UK. We've also got some of the world's best companies. Let's try and capitalise on that, make it part of your growth agenda. So it makes sense. They're also overhauling the energy grid right now. That's Ed Miliband's job. Peter Carr's now on this task force with him. They're going to be figuring out where to put those energy-hungry data centres, to make this work without the lights going off, so we can offer an attractive thing to companies, but there are some big ifs. Yeah, the Prime Minister very keen to stress that AI is here to help us, not to replace us. And this is a really good plan in theory. In practice, what are the concerns? Well, there's the jobs one, that's true. Yeah. Done right, though, and I think we're already beginning to see this, how are people actually using AI? I think it is fair to say, so far, it's to enhance the jobs we've already got, and the government obviously wants to make that point. It's about more jobs through AI and better jobs for those of us who can benefit from it. You know, teachers and nurses will spend less time doing admin because the AI will do it, more time with patients and kids. I think there's some truth in that, but someone's going to have to keep a very close eye on it. The bigger value that the government sees, again, is in the data. You know, we've got great data sets. The envy of the world is the NHS patient database. You know, you've got medical records for people. We've got historical records going back a long time. We've got things like the UK Biobank. Lots of viewers might even be a member of this. My mum was invited to join, give your blood samples, medical history. Huge value to AI and big tech companies. They want that data to train models, to come up with better treatments for diseases. Huge ambition, but how is the government going to make sure it does that without compromising this really personal information? They obviously acknowledge it, but what's the plan? It's a great plan, makes a lot of sense on paper, delivering it's harder. And also to attract those companies, you've got to reduce taxes, you've got to grow the economy anyway, so
many ifs and buts.
That's a big piece too.
OK, well, we've got the broad strokes, so we'll wait for the finer detail. Tom, thank you so much, Tom Clark there. Now, MPs have been debating a change in the law to allow bereaved parents access to their children's social media accounts. The campaign has been led by the mother of teenager Jools Sweeney, who is still searching for answers 3 years after her son took his own life. She's been speaking to our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen.
The pain in my heart about not knowing what happened that night and why is incredibly hard.
It's coming up to 3 years since 14-year-old Jools was found dead in his bedroom at home, and his mother is no closer to knowing why. But she believes his online activity could hold crucial clues.
The day he died, he had been playing football that day with a group of friends. He was always on his bike, so it wasn't like he was constantly in his room on his own.
Today we're going to be testing the Butterkiss Toffee Crunchy Popcorn.
I just can't believe we all missed depression. I have always said I don't know it's social media. It's always been my gut feeling, but I want the right to know.
With help from her son's friends, she's managed to guess his password and get into some of his accounts, but it's not a full picture.
He did do an awful lot of challenges, which actually at the time we thought they were just silly, viral challenges. I never knew about some of the more dangerous ones. The police didn't ask for the data from social media companies. The detective didn't even find out he had more than one account, more than one TikTok and Instagram account.
Gloucestershire Police said they did review Jools' phone but can't see all personal accounts unless investigating a criminal offence. She started a petition to call for bereaved parents to have full access to a child's social media history, which has attracted more than 120,000 signatures and will be debated by MPs. She's also preparing to take a case to the High Court to get answers at huge expense.
The solicitors quoted $86,000 to pay for barristers' legal fees, court costs, which is out of most people's reach.
Her lawyer has helped other bereaved families get data, but it's not easy.
Getting that information is incredibly difficult. It's a moving target. The social media companies sort of take this line that it's not for us, it's not our responsibility, which I think is, it makes for a very challenging set of circumstances, and it's not right.
The government say a new data protection bill will order tech companies to retain content when a child dies for a coroner to access, but not a child's parents. Ellen fears it may still leave families looking for answers. Tamara Cohen, Sky News, Cheltenham.
Well, among those attending today's debate was Holly Dance. Her son, Archie Battersbee, died aged 12 in what a coroner described as a prank or experiment that went wrong. And she's joining other families to demand more access to content that their children were exposed to online. And Holly joins us now from central London. Holly, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme tonight. I know just how personal this story is to you. You've come on the programme before to speak about what happened to Archie. He died just a week after Jools, so I know this is poignant for both you and Ellen. What are your hopes for what will happen next? Because this is finally being debated in Parliament.
It has. It was a very emotional debate. It was very thorough. We're hoping the next steps will be the House of Commons. I think everything that the bereaved families have been campaigning for the last few years with regards to internet safety was covered today. I think all the MPs were in agreement. Everybody all the speakers there today were in agreement. I feel it went very positive. It was positive.
Yeah. Well, as Ellen said in her interview with Tamara there, you know, she wants parents to be able to access a child's social media history, and it's not necessarily about retribution for families like yours, but to know, as Ellen said, it's the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle as to why she lost Jools, and it's the missing piece of the jigsaw for your family as to why you lost Archie.
It is, because obviously I know my child, and I know what my child was like, and Archie was very fearless, you know, but he was very happy, very confident, knew where he was going in life, and for us it's what went wrong, and you can't, the same with Ellen and all the families on the bereaved group. How can you start to grieve when you haven't got the answers?
It's worth reminding people of the battle that you've been through in terms of trying to secure those answers, what Archie was looking at before he died. What was the response from the social media company that you had, and what stage are you at in your quest for answers?
So I think it's very hard, because when you've just lost a child, especially in the circumstances that we lost Archie, your immediate thing isn't to go after the social media companies. In fact, at the time of your inquest, you're still in a total state of shock. So these questions, it's only sort of a couple of years on that you start to really investigate what has actually happened. We knew that police obviously told us at the time that Archie had watched 7 minutes of TikTok, and at the moment the police on further investigations have been told by TikTok that they've got no accounts or anything linked to Archie's number or email address, which is absolutely absurd, because they were there. He viewed 7 minutes of TikTok. He received a message from TikTok an hour and a half before he's done whatever it was that he's done that's led to obviously him not being here anymore. It's very frustrating that they won't give over the data. It's worrying, and it comes across as very suspicious why they won't give that data.
Yeah. The new Digital Information and Data Bill, the hope is that it will compel companies to retain data in cases where children have died. But speaking to Ellen, Jools' mum, she said she's worried it wouldn't compel the police and the coroner to ask for it, because it relies on all parties involved in finding out what happened to these young boys and girls. It relies on all of them pulling together to get that information.
It does, and I think that one of the speakers today, upon asking questions to social media platforms, I think there were Snapchat and another one that said that they would be happy to work with the parent, give that information over, but the other ones they weren't, you know, that it's just a no, they're following regulations and they're worried about being fined. But like somebody also said today, fined by who? Why would you not help parents get the answer to why their children aren't here anymore? Safeguarding children, I think it should be the priority here over any profits.
And you feel that those companies are too worried about legal action, for example, that may come with anything that they hand over? Is that what you think is their sort of reasoning behind not helping you get answers as to why Archie died?
Yes, I think it is probably legal action. That's the only, legal action, and obviously where they're worried that we're going to take it from there. But for us, we can't move on. You know, we can't. We've got no answers. How does a child go from being a happy, healthy child with their whole life ahead of them to just ending their life like that? How are we supposed to move on? We can't.
Yeah,
it's the missing piece of that puzzle that we all need.
Yeah, Holly, it's about getting answers, isn't it? It's also about accountability. That's the wider picture. But I know for each family that's affected by this, it is about the answers first rather than any kind of retribution or punishment or accountability. It's the answers you want, and I really hope you get them. Holly, we'll stay in touch. Holly, thank you for coming back on to the UK Tonight to talk to us once again. Holly, their mother to Archie Battersbee. Thank you. Well, if you've been affected by that story, the Samaritans are available to help. 116123 is their number, or the email joe@samaritans.org. Still to come on the UK Tonight, the family of two sisters last seen in Aberdeen almost a week ago issue a plea for information. And how rules on parking fines are being reviewed after a woman was fined almost £2,000 for taking more than 5 minutes to pay.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
President for a second time.
That reason being to save our country, he said.
A remarkable moment, isn't it?
Another chance, another 4 years. The question is, what does he do with those 4 years?
Watch the inauguration of Donald Trump as he becomes president for the second time.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The full story, first on Sky News.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent. Free wherever you get your news.
I'm Mark Stone, and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C. Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Katie Spencer, and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent.
I'm Lisa Dowd, and I'm one of Sky's Midlands correspondents. The reason I do this job is because you never know where it's going to lead.
I'm Alex Crawford, and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place for news.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
The mother of a 12-year-old girl has told the inquest into her death that her daughter took her own life after making a sexual assault allegation and feeling like she wasn't believed. Samina Halliwell died in June 2021, 3 days after attempting to take her own life at their home in Southport. And North of England correspondent Shingi Marike was at the inquest today and joins us now. Shingi, what did we learn today?
Well, SJ, today the inquest beginning wasn't just a chance to look into the circumstances around Samina's death. It was also a chance for her family to speak for the first time in any kind of court setting. And part of the day we saw her mother, Rachel, being asked questions and giving evidence as part of the inquest process. And as you said, part of this is linked so closely to her death, which came off the back of a sexual assault allegation, which she says took place in January. And it was a boy who was in her school who had groomed her on Snapchat before meeting in person. And her mother talked about how she went from being a bubbly, happy child at primary school to becoming a shell of herself off the back of this allegedly happening in secondary school. In the inquest, we heard her say that the incident destroyed her mentally, physically, and she changed into a different person. And you can imagine Rachel was emotional at points describing what had happened. She also had her concerns about how the police dealt with the situation. In her words, the police told her about timescales rather than trying to deal with the situation in her as a person, talking about how it could take up to 18 months to 2 years to deal with it, and talking about the paperwork and the admin involved. She said at this point, she felt like she wasn't believed. She felt it wasn't going to go anywhere. And to say to a 12-year-old child it's going to take 18 months to 2 years to go to court is not what any woman or child who has gone through a sexual assault needs to hear. And she was, of course, an autistic 12-year-old, adding to all of those elements of complexity. And we also heard deeply personal words from her after she had given evidence at the inquest, talking about the fact that Samina would have been a 16-year-old getting ready for her prom now. This is what she told me after she had finished giving evidence for the day.
Well, she'd have been her last year at school, looking forward probably to the prom, organising a dress.
Yeah.
She'd have been I often think about what would she look like now, because, you know, the last picture of her is when she was 12. You know, she'd be 16 now, and she was beautiful at 12. So I do think, what would she look like now? And, you know, for a mother, for a prom, you know, it's an exciting time. So they get to wear a beautiful dress, and you see them going to the prom, looking glamorous. And, you know, it is sad.
Samina's mother, Rachel, there talking. We also heard evidence from her aunt, Claire, who was also close to Samina and spent a lot of time with her, including on Sunday afternoons, where they would enjoy a roast and Samina would sit next to her. And she spoke about how she had her last moments in the hospital, Alder Hey Children's Hospital, after an overdose, and she asked the doctor if the doctor would be able to help her make it. She also had her complaints about the way the police had handled the investigation up until that point. I must say, we will hear from Merseyside Police over the course of the inquest, beginning tomorrow, and we know that they have produced statements over the course of the last few years, one which I can read for you. They say that the matter is currently being considered by the Sefton, Knowsley and St Helens coroner, and as such it is not appropriate for Merseyside Police to comment on any of the substantive issues raised at this time, as we would not wish to prejudice the coronial investigation. However, we have and are cooperating fully with the coroner in this matter. They have received a formal complaint which they are looking into, and say that the IOPC, the Body for Police Conduct, are looking into it. This inquest will go on until the 21st, so it will last a week. It is not looking at criminal or civil liability, but the family want to use this as a springboard to have a number of conversations, from how social media is regulated and looked at, as we've been discussing over the course of your programme, into how agencies they feel could have better supported their daughter. This inquest will continue.
Shingi, thank you. Shingi Marike with the latest. Well, if you've been affected by that story, you can contact the Samaritans at any time. The details on your screen. The family of two sisters who went missing in Aberdeen almost a week ago now have this evening issued an urgent plea for the public's help in finding them. Eliza and Henrietta Hoosty were both aged 32 when they were last seen on CCTV in Aberdeen in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The sisters can be seen here on Market Street after leaving their home shortly after 2 in the morning. The pair then crossed the Victoria Bridge to the Torry area, and we understand turned right onto a footpath next to the River Dee. Officers are saying there is no evidence to suggest that they left that immediate area. Still to come on the UK tonight, rules on parking fines to be reviewed after a woman was fined almost £2,000 for taking more than 5 minutes to pay. And in the sport, Tyson Fury announces his retirement from boxing again after suffering that defeat to Alexander Usyk. Tonight we're going to talk about parking, and there could be some good news for drivers. Private parking companies have promised to update their code of conduct after complaints that they are being far too strict. The companies are saying they'll look again at the rule that drivers should not take more than 5 minutes to pay for parking. This is after one woman racked up almost £2,000 in fine from the same car park. She is Rosie Hudson, and she was taken to court after repeatedly taking more than 5 minutes to pay at a car park in Derby, she says, because of poor mobile phone coverage. Well, I'm pleased to say that Rosie joins us tonight, along with consumer rights expert Scott Dixon. Rosie, good evening to you both, first of all, but Rosie, your story has really garnered a lot of attention because so many people can identify with parking fines and what they see as an unfair, quite harsh system. Tell me your story. How did you get to the £2,000 mark when it comes to fines?
Well, it basically started from parking for everyday work. I was using the car park to commute to work every day. I thought nothing of it. However, I couldn't even use the basic fundament of paying with cash. There was no machine that worked. This company are actually claiming that there was a machine working. However, at the time, I have a photo from Google Maps that proves that both machines were out of order. So upon receiving the first fine, I phoned the company to dispute this, and they basically said to me, you're liable for this fee because you haven't paid within 5 minutes. So to get them off my back, I actually paid the first fine. So I paid £60, which because it was within 14 days. However, subsequently received a further 9 fines in the post, one after the other. I even received one letter and then another letter on the same day. So it's been crazy.
Yeah. Well, no, you can understand why, because if you're parking at that car park every day for work, obviously it's going to keep happening, and that's why the letters are coming in such quick succession. And you say that you paid the first one, and that's what most people do. They think, oh gosh, if I pay now, it's half price. You take the hassle out of it, and the language can often be quite scary, and they say, if you don't pay within this time frame, you're liable for the full amount. Did you feel that kind of pressure? I'm also interested as to why you felt you wanted to fight it further, because like I said, most people just don't.
Yes, so I've thought it was really important to keep strong, keep doing this and fight for it, because I'm so aware of the hundreds and thousands of people that are affected by this every single day. The private car parking companies are making money out of thin air, and it can't carry on for much longer. This is why I've stood up for myself and so many other motorists, because we're going through this every single day.
Yeah, and particularly at train station car parks, right? Because time's of the essence. You're normally rushing for the train, and you tend to pay for parking on the train, and that could be without the 5-minute time limit. And you mentioned there about the money they're making. It's estimated around 41,000 parking tickets are issued a day by private parking companies. 3.8 million of them were handed out between July and September last year alone. That's according to the RAC Foundation. Each ticket and fine can be up to £100, so that's around £4.1 million a day. Let's bring in Scott at this point, because, Scott, that is a lot of fines being handed out to people. Anecdotally, we all know someone with a fine. Some of us might have even got them ourselves. What are your rights if you believe that you have made a genuine mistake or you've done nothing wrong?
Well, the first thing that you need to bear in mind is a private parking operator cannot fine you. So what they do is they issue parking charge notices for an alleged breach of contract for parking on private land. And only councils can fine you, and they issue penalty charge notices for infringements on public highways, like parking in bus lanes and on double yellow lines. And they look similar, and there's a reason for that. And it's to essentially extract money from you as part of their business model. And what you need to do, if you feel that you've been unfairly ticketed, for example, if you've gone to the Boxing Day sales at Next and you've entered the car park before 7 o'clock and you've got a ticket, go to Next, because they have the power to cancel them. And it's the same with supermarkets, cinemas. Go straight to the cinema or supermarket in the first instance and try and get the ticket cancelled at that point and get it confirmed in writing. And if that doesn't work, follow the appeals process the first stage of the appeal will be virtually rejected. But if you take it to the second stage, the British Parking Association, Poplar, to the Independent Appeal Service, 42% are upheld. So if it's not right, it's worth the fight. Stick to your guns. Evidence is key. So and a lot of these tickets are issued out of time. So to hold keeper liability, they've got to be issued within 14 days of the parking event under Schedule 4 of the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012. And if they're issued later than that, there is no keeper liability. And you can put that to the parking operator that they need to cancel it because there is no keeper liability. You're only invited to transfer the liability to the driver.
This is so interesting, Scott. This really is. I feel like I should be taking notes because, you know, most people think when they get an official letter through the door from a private parking company, you know, a train station car park, for instance, where Rosie was, that they have to pay that fine. A lot of people get to look, I'm just looking at a debt recovery notice here because many people will know that is the next step. If you don't pay that fine, you get these kind of letters. And that number there is a frightening number, is over £1,000. What do people do if it gets to this stage? What are their rights here and what can they do?
Well, what you need to bear in mind is the private parking operators, they use third-party debt collectors, but these third-party debt collectors are classed as strangers to the debt. So they don't actually own this alleged debt. And it's just part of the process that they use to extract money with menaces. But what you need to do is you need to respond to what's called the letter before claim or letter before action. And that's the last stop before it goes to court. So that needs a response. But these third-party debt collector letters, they're not enforceable. And it's just completely wrong. And this is why we need a UK government code of practice with teeth to create a level playing field for all motorists. Because what we have at the moment is trade associations and parking bodies just marking their own homework and making the rules up as they go along. And this latest announcement is simply a knee-jerk reaction to Rosie's case and the adverse media attention it's attracted.
Well, listen, Scott, that's been so useful in terms of, you know, most people think they do have to pay the fine and, you know, they pay more thinking if they leave it later, it will go up in price. So that's been some really useful information there. And like you said, there should be a standard code of practice. There were proposals for a private parking code of practice. You know, that didn't come to fruition. This is one small victory, which Rosie will be pleased about, which is the 5-minute rule. But there's so much caught up in this that could be explored. We could talk a lot on this, but some really useful information for people affected there, Scott. And Rosie, thank you for telling your story as an example of the kind of practice that is happening in those private car parks. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I'm going to rewind that and take lots of notes. I advise you to as well. I'm going to talk to our web team about writing that up because some really useful information there from Scott Dixon, the consumer finance expert, because, you know, I don't know about you, but those parking fines, a lot of people get them. Now, coming up on the UK Tonight, one of the culinary world's most polarising debates, we'll be asking whether pineapple has a place on pizza. This is as one restaurant comes up with a new idea to put people off it. And in sport, Tyson Fury has announced his retirement from boxing again. We'll have the details.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
President for a second time.
That reason being to save our country, he said.
A remarkable moment, isn't it?
Another chance, another 4 years. The question is, what does he do with those 4 years?
Watch the inauguration of Donald Trump as he becomes president for the second time.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The full story, first on Sky News.
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
We'd been warned that we would meet people in the lowest moment of their lives.
Their story is one of fundamental American failure. Well, a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club, but I have to say there are more media here than there are supporters.
We love Trump!
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here, but the anger too. This is just the audience that Joe Biden wanted.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important, it's at the heart of the issue.
For all the talk of a toned-down, humbled Trump, yes, maybe there was just a little less rhetoric, a little less divisiveness, but in the end it was the same rhythm, the same speech, the same man.
All them people that died in Russia and Ukraine, they'd still be alive today if Donald Trump was president.
If it was my wish, have a businessman that's strong like Trump, but maybe just doesn't say as much, you know?
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What we've been allowed to see over here is a humanitarian corridor. Free wherever you get your news.
A young American medical student is making remarkable things happen.
I've seen a lot of difficult things, and honestly, it breaks my heart. These children don't deserve that.
I don't think there's a single Arab I know who isn't seriously disturbed by what's going on. And so they gathered for this wonder of nature.
I'm very excited right now.
This is an extraordinary moment beyond anything I could have expected. Sky News, get the full story first.
Hello, welcome back. Coming up, we'll try to settle the age-old debate of whether pineapple has a place on pizza with a chef who was crowned the world's best pizza maker. Pineapple, yay or nay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, good, I found someone else. It's my 4-year-old and grandma that likes pineapple on
to
pizza.
be honest,
Everybody
anything you
else
want on there, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not the whole point, but it's part of the point.
I know, yeah, I'm all for fruit on a pizza. Fig, pear, I have it all. It's all healthy for you, regardless of the pizza bit, which isn't. Anyway, we're talking about boxing.
And more briefly now.
Yeah, Tyson Fury, he could have a pizza or two because he's going to retire, he's announced today. Why now, Nick?
Well, that's what he says. Why? Well, we don't really know because he hasn't told us that. There's a bit of context. 2 days ago, Frank Warren, his promoter, talked about the prospect of selling out Wembley, probably for a fight against Anthony Joshua, the great British heavyweight fight that has been talked about for years and years, has never happened. And the other bit of context is that he lost for the second time on points to the Ukrainian Alexander Usyk a couple of months ago. As to exactly why he's doing it, not many clues in his announcement today.
Hi everybody, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'd like to announce my retirement from boxing. It's been a blast. I've loved every single minute of it, and I'm going to end with this. Dick Turpin wore a mask. God bless everybody. See you on the other side. Get up!
Yeah, no clues really, but Dick Turpin wore a mask. He was robbed in his last fight, maybe?
Yes, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Only he knows. But what has he done for British boxing? Because he's such a big character. He transcends the sport.
He's
Everybody
a huge
knows
character,
who he is.
and everyone knows who he is. Not everybody likes him, but let's stick to the sport for this occasion. It goes back to nearly a decade ago when he went to Düsseldorf as a relatively young and relatively, compared to today, unknown British fighter in world terms and beat the great Vladimir Klitschko and took 3 of his titles. And since then, he has made sure, with the help of others, Anthony Joshua most notably, that British heavyweight boxing has been talked about in the upper echelons of the sport.
Yeah. When we first started talking, you said he's retiring with it. I noted a bit of scepticism in your voice there, because he has retired before, and there has been a bit of talk about the fact that he might be doing this in order to make a big comeback, perhaps. Yeah, for an anti-Joshua fight.
Yes, I mean, my guess is, and it's only a guess, and everyone in boxing pundits, most of whom are as sceptical as I am, my guess is that he probably thinks in his head that he is retiring. But Lennox Lewis accepted, there are very few boxers who've been at or near the top and have said they're retiring and stuck to it. And the thought of another big payday, let's say against Joshua at Wembley, who he thinks he can beat easily, could be very tempting.
Might be the temptation he needs.
It's not the only sport that we've been talking about today. There's some very interesting football coming up, and tennis as well.
Staying connected is vital for business.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
I'm striving to find out how our Games Academy system works. I've heard from the very best managers.
20 years ago, if you had talent, you could be at the top, but now it's not enough.
I've heard from the very best players.
You get your first contract when you're, what, 8, 9? Year on year, you're fighting for a contract.
I've heard from those who've had their dreams shattered.
I'm so out of love with it, I don't want to be here.
Coming up in this episode, I'll find out exactly how the system works.
The two biggest periods of success in Manchester United's history have been driven by young academy players.
The way we do things may be slightly different, predominantly because we've been doing it longer than anyone else. Our youth program's 90 years old, and we're trying to build a program that sees the boys reach their full potential. Ultimately, you know, the utopia is we want to support players to go and play in our first team, and we've been brilliant at that over the years.
The relationship that the academy have with the first team, with the manager, with the director of football, chief executive, how close is that, Nick?
Youth development is the centre of this football club,
yes,
because of Matt Busby, because of Sir Alex, yes, because of Munich, because of the Champions Leagues that we won. The youth sat at the heart of it. It's a way of life.
The two biggest periods of success in Manchester United's history have been driven by young academy players. It's everywhere you walk when you come into the club. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I always had from the manager, was that he believed in me.
Yeah.
So he helped you, he guided you, you know, he let you know on certain terms when he needed to, that when you weren't at your level or when you weren't doing what you wanted to do, but always felt that the manager believed in me, and as a young player, that's all you could wish for.
The way we've always worked has been to consider developing the young person as well as the player. I think your best chance of reaching your full potential as a footballer is if you're a really good kid with some kind of well-rounded qualities and mannerisms. But our job ultimately is to help boys prepare for life away from our academy,
yes,
whether that's in our first team or in another walk of life.
What is the...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
The owners of a pizzeria in Norwich have boldly waded into one of the great questions of our times. Does pineapple ever belong on a pizza? Well, their answer is a clear no. The restaurant charging customers an eye-watering £100 if they want a Hawaiian pizza, almost 10 times the price of their other pizzas. Understandably, that decision has raised some eyebrows. But are they right? Well, I'm joined now by Michaela Pascarella, a pizza chef who won the prestigious Global Pizza Maker of the Year in 2023. Hello, good evening to you.
Hello, good evening.
Let's get straight into it. If somebody comes to you and says, oof, I'll have cheese, always extra cheese, tomato base, ham, pineapple, where do you stand on the pineapple ingredient?
Not even for £1,000, actually. I'm always like a guy that respects all the choice and taste of everyone, but there's always something that we can't get rid of.
Yeah.
I mean, pineapple on a pizza, actually, fresh pineapple on a pizza is very bad. We don't really want to put fresh fruit on a pizza. I mean, there's two ways. If you try to take pineapple and try to cook in a different way, we can do something more particular, more, different. But if you just take a pineapple from a tin and just slap on a pizza, we don't really want it.
I mean, my director in my ear is incensed. He's just said, tomatoes are fruit. So we could get into that debate, but that's probably for another time. Maybe we'll do that on tomorrow's show. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I have been to a well-known Italian pizzeria chain, and my 4-year-old likes pineapple on a pizza. And she asked for it, and they said no. They don't do it. It seems to be a thing where they say proper Italian pizzas should not have it on there. Is that just an Italian rule, or is that sort of, far and wide?
I think it should be like world rules. The thing is that as an Italian guy, we know that we got lots of quality ingredients, very simple. So that's why we need to stick to the plan and just keep like simple ingredients on a pizza.
I've had fig on a pizza before, and I know you can get pear on a pizza before. Are you in favour of that?
Yeah, I mean, if you do something
We're just discriminating against pineapple?
No, if you can do something like Parma ham and figs, maybe caramelized, it's something that can be good together. But the thing is, the pineapple is so acid, you know.
Where did it come from then?
So
How is it ruining one of your national dishes? Where did the pineapple on a pizza come from?
I think something from Canada. It was a Greek chef that just tried to put like a sweet
Hang on,
and
it came
salt
from
on
Canada. It was a Greek chef, and it's often called a Hawaiian.
Yeah, yeah.
There is so much wrong with this. So you think it came from Canada?
Yeah, I heard about. I don't really go into it because we don't really, you know, understand these kind of things, and we don't want to be on that point.
Okay.
From my point of view, margherita, keep it simple, so nice ingredients, very simple.
Well, Michaela, you have spoken. I love a margarita.
Less is
I'm
more.
with you. Right, that's it for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 8.